The battle at Shiloh in Tennessee, fought on April 6th and 7th in 1862, was a major Union victory in the Western theater of the Civil War. A few weeks later, the capture of New Orleans would prove another Northern win in the West. Led by Naval Commander David Farragut, the battle was a decisive victory for the Union. The Northern effort to secure the Mississippi would falter at Vicksburg. By May 1862, however, the Union had carved deep into the Confederacy. In April 1862, Naval Commander David Farragut led the campaign to capture New Orleans. The objective? Seize the Confederacy's largest and most valuable port city and take a major step to control the Mississippi River. At age 9, Farragut began his life at sea. He earned battle experience in the War of 1812 and the Mexican War. Though a Tennessean and married to a Virginian, his loyalty lay with the flag of the Union. When fellow Southerners tried to sway him to the Confederate cause, he replied, "Mind what I tell you, you fellows will catch the devil before you get through this business." Now Farragut headed one of the most important efforts to defeat the South. He commanded a fleet of 8 steam sloops, 1 sailing sloop, and 14 gunboats, accompanied by 19 mortar schooners and transports carrying 15,000 soldiers, commanded by General Benjamin Butler. New Orleans controlled access to the lower Mississippi River, making it critical for trade, supply routes, and communication. Vast amounts of cotton, tobacco, and slaves passed through New Orleans as the most important trade center in the American South. To reach the city, Farragut's fleet had to pass 2 Confederate forts situated south of New Orleans, Fort Jackson and Fort St. Philip. At 2 a.m. on April 24th, 7 of Farragut's warships steamed upriver. The Confederates opened fire. They had between 80 and 90 guns. Farragut's ships fired back with twice as many. In the meantime, the mortar schooners bombarded the forts. 3 rebel gunboats engaged the Union Navy. In one rare successful strike, they sank the sloop Varuna. In another tactic, the Confederate tugboats pushed rafts with pine and pitch set ablaze with fire, all toward the Union boats. All but 4 of Farragut's boats made it past the forts toward New Orleans. On April 25th, Farragut and his fleet steamed into the city, greeted by angry citizens screaming from the docks. Though New Orleans was now lost, in a Pyrrhic gesture, Mayor John Tompkins Monroe refused to formally surrender to Farragut, at which point the commander ordered the Marines to raise the American flag over public buildings. The victory was decisive for the Union, and the loss devastating for the Confederacy, as the North now controlled a major port and strengthened its plan to dominate the Mississippi River. Following defeat, New Orleans was occupied and under the military governorship of Major General Butler. Among others, John T. Monroe was arrested and imprisoned. Military Governor Butler also organized a large number of freed slaves to serve in the Union Army. Altogether, they formed 5 regiments known as the Corps d'Afrique, or the Louisiana Native Guards, and were led by Brigadier General Daniel Ullman. Over the course of the Civil War, more than 180,000 black soldiers would fight for the North. That was roughly 10% of Union forces. After Farragut captured New Orleans, he steamed up the Mississippi River. Along the way, the cities of Baton Rouge and Natchez surrendered. At Vicksburg, however, he met unprecedented resistance. In response to Farragut's call for surrender, the city's mayor, Laz Lindsay, defiantly replied, "Mississippians don't know and refuse to learn how to surrender. If Commodore Farragut can teach them, let him come and try." Farragut's guns opened fire, but Vicksburg sat atop a 200-foot bluff above the river. Confederate forces were commanded by General Earl Van Dorn. His artillery guns were supremely well positioned to fire back at Farragut's warships. The Union commander soon concluded that firepower from his fleet alone could not take the city. and any attempt by Union soldiers to scale the bluff would be suicidal. Only a land attack from behind the city could succeed. Not for more than another year would the North achieve this. In the meantime, to make matters worse, disease struck the fleet. June along the southern part of the Mississippi was hot, humid, and mosquito-infested. Malaria spread. So did dysentery, as the ships had poor sanitation and lacked fresh water. Then came the ironclad, the CSS Arkansas. She was commanded by Kentuckian Isaac Newton Brown, a 30-year veteran of the U.S. Navy. Brown and the Arkansas made their way from Yazoo City along the Yazoo River until it turned into the Mississippi. With its 10 guns, the Confederate ironclad steamed south to Vicksburg to challenge not only Farragut's fleet, but several Union ironclads and gunboats that had arrived from Memphis as well. The Arkansas maneuvered between two lines of Union vessels, taking fire from them but returning in kind. The Confederate ironclad disabled the Carondelet, a Union ironclad commanded by James Shirk. The Arkansas suffered 60 casualties, but was able to make its way to security beneath the Vicksburg guns at the top of the bluff. Farragut was furious. He tried to destroy the Arkansas, but failed. From Vicksburg to Port Hudson, the Confederates now controlled 200 miles of the Mississippi River. Confederate General Van Dorn attempted to regain Baton Rouge. As part of the effort, he sent the Arkansas downriver to take on the Union gunboats, but the ironclad's engines faltered, and the Union forces repulsed the Confederate attack. The Arkansas's crew blew the ironclad up rather than allow her to be captured. Altogether, it had been a good few months for the Union, what the New York Tribune called a deluge of victories in the West.